The president's agenda isn't going to change regardless of whose party is there. We're still going to be an administration that's focused on lowering the taxes, growing our economy, creating jobs, defeating ISIS, remaking the judiciary, fixing the tremendous opioid crisis that we have. I think we can work with Democrats on that.
From last night outside the West Wing, Sarah Sanders reacting to what we're trying to digest now in the midterms. Big Democratic takeover in the chamber could serve as a check on the president and the House. We know that. But what about the Trump agenda? Where does it go now? What are the voters saying? Brett Baer back in Washington, D.C. Quick work there, brother, on the travel. Good morning to you.
Early flight.
Yeah,
thanks, Delta.
We were talking during the commercial. We could shoot at 1,000 things right here. Just go ahead and start with what you're starting to digest from last night.
Well, first of all, I think this is going to be a fascinating news conference. Pretty energetic, just judging by the president's tweets this morning. Already, obviously saying tremendous success, but then it escalated pretty quickly there, talking about investigations and maybe you need to investigate the House Democrats, and also that Nancy Pelosi really deserves to be Speaker and maybe she'll get some Republican votes if she needs them. So the news conference is going to be fascinating. The president has reason to crow when it comes to the Senate. I mean, this is historic, and where he campaigned in the final days turned out to be a big turnout and win, as opposed to President Obama, who campaigned in Indiana for Joe Donnelly, in Florida for Gillum and Nelson, and in Georgia for Stacey Abrams. All of those, it appears, are losses.
That's
definitely the first three, but Stacey Abrams is not yet.
A very interesting point here. You mentioned the Trump tweets here. Here's just one, and take this however you want to. You talk about him campaigning in Indiana, Missouri, and likely making a difference, especially in those rural areas. He says, those that worked with me in this incredible midterm election, embracing certain policies and principles, did very well. Those that did not, say goodbye. Yesterday was such a very big win, all under the pressure of a nasty and hostile media. That's a shot at Republicans, in a way, who are not on board.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this clearly is President Trump's party, and he is steering it. Many presidents at the top of the party are, but he's doing it directly. And it'll be interesting to hear his perspective on that today. The Kavanaugh factor. I think that was such a huge factor in those races of Democrats up for re-election in red states. Every senator who voted against Kavanaugh lost, except Manchin, who voted for Kavanaugh and won. I think it was a major move in those races, particularly in someplace like Indiana and Missouri.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Mitch McConnell says about that next hour. We'll keep in mind on that. Our voter analysis, we did it differently this year. It wasn't just exit polling on the day. We did a rolling coverage for about a week's time, and this is what we found. On the Trump factor, reason for your vote. It's split here, Brett. Do you express support? 26%. Express opposition? Higher by 11 points. Trump is not a factor, 36%. Does that tell us much there? Is that declarative in a way or not?
I don't think so on that particular one. I do think that obviously President Trump was a big factor. I think 63% said he factored into the race. And when it comes to the House versus the Senate, it's two different animals. And I think you heard Lindsey Graham last night saying that Republicans do have a suburban women issue that they need to figure out ahead of 2020. But if you look historically, President Obama in 2010 lost 63 House seats and 6 Senate seats. 1994, Bill Clinton loses 54 House seats and 8 Senate seats. Now, we may turn out to be, 33 losses here. This is going to be a fairly slim majority for if it's House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
8, 10 seats and maybe 12 at the high end?
Yeah, and she's going to have people who've been elected who campaigned against her. Democrats in Republican-leaning districts. And then on the flip side, the Senate is going to be emboldened. They'll be churning out the judges and the justices, and I think you're going to see a smiling Senator McConnell, and that's a rare thing.
Last point here. It's kind of a smirk more than anything. John Jr. sent this out last night. Welcome to the hashtag 2020 election cycle. I guess it begins now, right? I think the question is, who's the first one to Iowa?
I don't know.
Elizabeth
Beto
Warren,
O'Rourke said he's not running, but I bet he takes another look at it. Elizabeth Warren obviously is in. But, you know, progressives, to Josh's point in your last segment, were 0 for 9. You know, so is the Democratic Party going to go that way? Is it going to go the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren way? Or they're going to try to find a star who somehow can capture at least some of the middle? I think it's a fascinating question, and it's a real conundrum for the Democratic Party.
Great stuff. Good to be with you last night. Terrific coverage to you and
You
Martha.
too, man.
The whole